I've clicked on the global tropical already for September the 21st, 2023. As is always the case in these videos, the thoughts expressed here are mine alone, and when making decisions that have any tropical cyclones, look towards your local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. So we've still got quite a bit of activity in the Atlantic, but today we're going to be focusing only on potential tropical cyclone 16. As for short-term interest, this is the most pressing concern. 90L is still way out in the tropical Atlantic and will just be meandering out there for the next week. So we're going to focus on PTC 16 for now. And just as a start, for those unfamiliar with the term potential tropical cyclone, this is a relatively new term. It was introduced about 6 years ago in 2017. This is designated when a system is likely to bring tropical storm conditions to an area, tropical storm or hurricane conditions to an area within the next 36 to 48 hours, but is not developed into a subtropical or tropical cyclone yet. And that's what we have here. The system is right now forming into a non-tropical cyclone. This is a non-tropical formation that we're seeing take place here, not a tropical formation. But the expectation is that this system will have enough time to transition into a tropical cyclone. Now, very importantly, before I go into any details on stuff here, it's important that you don't get caught into the exact terms of the status if it's a potential tropical cyclone, subtropical cyclone, or tropical cyclone. Either way, whatever name it has, whatever designation it has, the impacts are not going to change one bit. Even if this becomes a tropical storm and gets a name, impacts are going to be the same. Even if this does not transition into any form of subtropical or tropical cyclone, it stays non-tropical its entire life, impacts are not going to change. And these impacts are likely to be very significant. We're talking about very strong winds that could bring tropical storm conditions to a wide region of the mid-Atlantic and portions of North Carolina. And all that wind onshore or offshore is going to be blowing onshore. So you're going to have significant storm surge and coastal flooding. And in some cases, that could be life-threatening. And we're also going to be seeing some significant rainfall that could potentially lead to some flash flooding issues. Now, if we look at the current visible satellite imagery loop, you can see the area of low pressure developing here quite nicely, as we talked about yesterday with the upper level trough here over the southeastern United States. This development will continue over the next day, and I'd say by this time tomorrow, we'll probably have a much more well-developed area of low pressure, given the support this upper trough is giving it. If you look in the water vapor loop, you can see the trough better, with it spinning around its axis here around southern Florida and southern Georgia and northern Florida. And you could see as well, north of this system with the area of low pressure developing here, all this upper level divergence that I also talked about that is also taking shape quite nicely ahead of that trough. And this seems to be going about as well as forecast. This is the GFS 250 millibar flow depiction of that trough. You can see that compared to yesterday, this trough is no longer a broad signature. It's much more sharp overall on its axis here. And we're also seeing all the divergence, as I noted, on water vapor form. Now, the system is going to continue moving north over the next couple of days, and this is by early Saturday morning or late Friday night, about 2 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday on the GFS model. And what we've seen, and I'll go back to show you this, here is the current initialization for this afternoon. You can see the area of low pressure developing. And by tomorrow morning, we've got an area of low pressure that is frontal. You can tell it's frontal by some of the wind shifts. You have some of the wind barbs here shifting between north and south of this wind gradient. That denotes the front, and you can sort of trace this alongside that wind maximum down to the area of low pressure, telling us that this is a frontal system on the model. Now, as the system comes north, you'll see this front continue to move north. And it's very important that we note that, because note how we still have strong winds around the center. That may be an indication of it forming into a subtropical or tropical cyclone, but note the strong winds associated with this front that stay as it comes north. And this is just a more non-tropical characteristic of it, making it more subtropical, I suppose. Even though the center of circulation is making landfall here down in North Carolina, upwards here in areas in New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and even into the Northeast, you're still going to get some significant onshore push from winds along this front that may be 45 to 50 miles per hour at max. Now, the most significant surge is likely to be along the coastline of the Outer Banks here in North Carolina as we get the more symmetric wind field taking shape here in the wind field you can see on the GFS. This is more of a tropical characteristic taking shape on the model, and the GFS has been very consistent on this, and other models have as well. This is why we're having more confidence of it potentially transitioning. But the thing to watch really over the course of the day tomorrow is when does it exactly get this symmetric core developed? And does it become, say, a fully tropical cyclone earlier than maybe some models do expect? In that case, we could potentially see some more intensification. Right now, the National Hurricane Center is about 60 miles per hour at peak, and that seems about right with current indications, but there might be a potential that it gets a little bit stronger than that. And of course, as you get stronger winds here on this onshore push, you increase the storm surge threat. Now, exactly how much surge we're expecting, this is the storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center. You can see quite a significant surge event here from the coastline of central Maryland all the way down to around Surf City, North Carolina, with areas surrounding that in the upper Chesapeake Bay, in Delaware Bay, and just up the coastline of New Jersey, 1 to 3 feet, and down on around Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and South Sanitary River, 1 to 3 feet as well. But the most significant surge is going to be kept where the system is making landfall. And you can see if the area of low pressure is making landfall here, you've got your most significant onshore push into Pamlico Sound and up these river valleys, or river deltas rather, in North Carolina. And this will likely make for the most significant surge event. You can see 3 to 5 feet forecast for the National Hurricane Center, with a more widespread 2 to 4 feet from Surf City, North Carolina, up into the lower Chesapeake Bay. Now, because of these significant surge values, a storm surge warning and storm surge watch has been issued for a large portion of North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. You can go to the National Hurricane Center advisory page at nhc.noaa.gov to see exactly which areas are within this and see if you're within it. And we've also had tropical storm warnings issued naturally as the system comes ashore. Now, the other concern that I talked about is rainfall. This is a GFS depiction of the rainfall shield, and you can see as it comes in, it really spreads over a large region, and that's something very important. It's not going to be just kept to the coastline of North Carolina. The rainfall will spread quite far inland. Even areas in central Virginia and even central Pennsylvania may get some rainfall here. And even on up towards Boston, you may actually have some significant rainfall as well. And here's the Weather Prediction Center rainfall forecast. You can see a widespread 2 to 4 inch rain forecast here, all the way up from around Wilmington to Boston, Massachusetts, with several areas far inland within that. And closer to the landfall spot along the mid-Atlantic coastline, a widespread 4 to 6 inch forecast is there, with areas around the landfall spot being the most significant of 6 to 10 inches. Now, of course, keep in mind, across this entire area here in the forecast, you could have locally higher totals, and a lot of this rain may fall in a pretty short amount of time, so that may lead to some flash flooding issues. And naturally, the Weather Prediction Center has issued an elevated slight risk of excessive rainfall due to that risk. Finally, here's the National Hurricane Center 5-day forecast cone. You can see the non-tropical forecast here, but transitioning into a fully tropical cyclone here, at least subtropical or fully tropical, by around Saturday morning, and then landfall around early Saturday morning as many of you are waking up. And you can see the tropical storm warnings in place naturally along this coastline. But of course, this map only shows the coastal warnings. Make sure you go to weather.gov so you can see exactly how far inland these warnings stretch. But that's all that I've got for now on potential tropical cyclone 16. I'll have feature videos later this week and into this weekend. But make sure you stay tuned to the National Hurricane Center, your local National Weather Service office, and the Weather Prediction Center for the latest information ahead of this storm, and stay safe as the system passes through. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.